Imagine for a moment you're stuck on a Rikers. Just imagine you're sitting in a cell and you're with your fellow inmates. Imagine you have just a couple of minutes in the yard every day. Imagine you going from the breakfast room, the lunchroom, the dinner room, but you're essentially stuck and isolated in prison and you have nowhere to go. And just imagine for a moment that you're happy in there. Imagine, close your eyes for a moment and think, I love my life. I love it here. It's so cool, so nice. I can go exercise in the exercise room. I got my friends over here. We blend in. We're a team. We're a unit. Can you imagine the tragedy of somebody who thinks they are happy and they are free and they're excited to live in Rikers Island or in any jail for that moment, for that point? The truth is that this is the story of our lives. You see, we are all in Rikers Island. I'm going to share with you this beautiful, powerful letter of the Rebbe, which concerns this point. Check this out, this beautiful, powerful letter. Yudui Maimer Razal, the Rebbe writes, it's known the advice of the saying of our sages, called every single soul, every single neshama, every soul that came down to earth was standing in front of Hashem. They were all coming from the deepest levels of the seat of God's glory, so to speak, the chair of God's glory. This saying of our sages emphasizes the simple thing, which is the purity, the beauty of the soul. The soul is entirely spiritual. The soul from itself has no connection to physicality, to the dollar bill, to materialism. The soul has no connection to any temptations. Where do temptations come from? The body and the animal soul. But the soul itself, the godly soul, the piece of you that is your neshama, that is part of God, that is your essence, that is the true you, has no connection to physicality, has no interest in materialism, and doesn't want to be trapped in the physical body, which we'll see in a moment is like Rikers Island. Let's continue the letter. Nevertheless, God wanted that this soul, your soul, which is literally a princess, it's a part of God. God wanted that this soul should go down, to descend into this world for 70, 80, 90, 120 years. And should be enclosed in a physical body, physical that the soul should be joined, should be trapped in the body for decades. That means that in the course of decades, tens of years, the soul should be in a situation that is completely opposite natural self. Let's continue all this. Why is the soul trapped in a body? Why is the soul in a place where it doesn't want to be? To uplift the body, to uplift, to illuminate this world, this physical world, with the light of God, to make it into a home for God. And then, all the torture for the soul, that it torture emanating from the fact that it's in a body. And in this physical world, it will be like nothing, because it's eternal happiness. The Rebbe writes like this. The soul is like Rikers. You see, the soul is a princess. And I'm going to give a parable from the Dubna Magi. The Dubna Magi used to say, imagine you have a king who has a beautiful daughter. And the daughter's used to living a life of luxury, right? Riches and fame. And the king tries to find his daughter at Shidduch. So he introduces her to this guy, the son of a prince, the son of a king, and then introduces her to this guy who's the son of a prominent businessman. And each person she dates, she says, oh, I don't like him. I don't like his nose. I don't like this one's personality. This one's not too boring for me. This one's too that. This one's too that. And eventually the king becomes exasperated with his daughter. And he says, I promise you, the next person to walk into the palace is going to be your husband. Turns out, the next person to walk into the palace was the local farmer, the local peasant. But he thought there'd be another rich, powerful figure who's going to be the prince. You're going to marry her. But true to his word, he forced her to marry the peasant, the local farmer. And the farmer took her to his palace, to his house, which was a shack, was a hut in the middle of the field. And the princess, that used to sleeping on a bed of fur, of a beautiful silk bed, is now sleeping on the floor on a bed of straw, because that's where the farmer sleeps. And she's crying at the fact that she's living in a broken down hut in the middle of a field instead of living in a palace surrounded by servants and a castle and the gates and everything else. And the husband who loves and adores his wife sees that his wife's upset, so he tries to give her. He says, I'm going to buy you a present. And he comes home that night and he tells his wife, close your eyes. I have a beautiful gift for you. And she closes her eyes and he places in her hand the most beautiful gift that he could muster think of. She opens her eyes and she sees a fresh and ripe tomato from the field. And she bursts out crying because this husband of hers is such a fool. He doesn't even live in her world. He doesn't even understand the meaning of the word pleasure, luxury. This is what he buys me as a gift, a tomato. This is crazy. This is insane. The soul, our soul, is that princess which was used to living a life of luxury, true luxury, which is coming from divine delicacies, Torah and mitzvot. The soul was living and basking in heaven, and one day God says, I'm putting you in Rikers Island. Rikers Island means this world, trapped in a body. And the tragedy is that we don't even realize that we are trapped in a body. We don't even realize that this world is Rikers Island, that we are trapped, we're prisoners. And the soul cries, I don't want to be trapped here, because the soul senses the truth. And as the Rebbe writes in the letter, all this torture for the soul is worth it. Why? Because in this world, through doing a mitzvah, through learning Torah, through observing a mitzvah, it's worth decades of living in this prison, this Rikers Island, because what we can obtain, what we can reach, what we can achieve in this world is infinitely greater than anything else. Let's continue the letter. Base, Nakel lahabin, it's easy to understand. The tremendous pain, anguish of the soul, distress of the soul, and its death. That all the torture of the soul living in the body, the soul living in Rikers Island, you receive, you increase your soul's torture. Can you imagine, writes the Rebbe, how tortured the soul is when the body chases after another dollar, another vacation, another Vegas, another car? Of course we need those luxuries in life, but the soul wants them to enhance its divine pursuits. The reason why the soul came into Rikers Island, into your body, you can only obtain this through doing a mitzvah, through learning Torah. Can you imagine the torture of the soul, but you don't realize this? And if at times we go to shul, we do that. We only put on tefillin, and like Shabbat, sometimes we do it by rote. We don't put our feeling, we don't exert our love into the mitzvah. Besides for the main point, that we lose the opportunity to serve God, to do the will of God. And we don't realize the eternal happiness and reward that comes from this. It's opposite common sense to chase after something that's bad in life. Rikers Island. To imprison the soul. And to suppress it by it going into the body. It's opposite common sense to crush the soul by chasing physicality and not pursuing, not releasing the soul from its Rikers Island by doing it. Can you imagine the joy and the pleasure the soul feels by just doing one time a mitzvah, one time give charity, love a fellow Jew, pick up the phone, do something useful. And this is why our sages say, the person doesn't sin only if a spirit of folly, of stupidity enters him. Because everybody can realize, even without going deeply into it, since a person lives against his will, right? The soul never wanted to come to Rikers Island. The soul never wanted to descend into the prison, into the shackle of the body. Since the soul is forced to live in a body, Gashmi, a physical body, for decades, so it's understood we should pursue spiritual pursuit. It's understood that we should pursue eternal happiness. And another thing, since God, who is the ultimate good, forces the soul into Rikers Island, forces the soul from the highest spiritual levels into this pit that's called physical world. In order to learn Torah and do mitzvot, this is the ultimate proof. This is the ultimate proof to prove to you how precious learning Torah and doing a mitzvah is. From this we are forced to conclude you cannot arrive at your ultimate destiny and purpose in life you can only arrive to your destiny by coming down into this pit, into this world, and fulfilling Torah. If there was an easier way, God would have never sent us into Rikers Island for 70, 89 years. God wouldn't have forced the soul to go down and down and down. To go down into this physical world, which is so low. Only here in this pit, deep pit, in this Rikers Island, right over here in this Manhattan, New York, London, Toronto, wherever you are, Johannesburg, Melbourne, can the soul fulfill the destiny and reach the ultimate levels of spirituality. The soul can reach even higher than the highest angel. That means when you do a mitzvah, when you take a coin and give it to charity, when you put on tefillin, when you light tobacco candles, you are greater than the greatest angel. Like our sages teach us, a tzaddik is much higher than even the greatest angel. And to conclude, writes the Rebbe, when a person contemplates and meditates deeply upon the great advantage of learning Torah and fulfilling mitzvahs in this world. And Torah and mitzvot is the only way to fulfill your destiny to reach the highest level. You will come to be the happiest person on earth. This is perhaps the greatest part of the letter, because how do you find happiness? How are you happy when you do Torah, when you do mitzvot? You're fulfilling, you're feeding your soul, you're liberating your soul out of Rikers Island. That is when you take yourself out of prison momentarily. Don't look at all the concealment, all the darkness, all the people who laugh at you. And you can fulfill what it says in Torah, serve God with joy. Derech avoid if you haven't been a b'shitas of Baal Shem Tov, Baruch, then I would just end of the letter that this is the ultimate way. We need to serve God with joy. This is a very deep, profound, meaningful letter. It's a beautiful letter describing the destiny of the soul, how to be happy, and how to liberate ourselves from Rikers.